British Brothers Assemble.
That's putting it
We're
punny.
making our top 10 comic book movies.
If you haven't
List.
seen that by the title of this video.
Yeah, there's a title somewhere. This says stuff. There's a lot of comic book movies.
Dude, there is much more comic book movies in the last 20 years than...
And there's gonna be a lot more.
Definitely. Thanks to this company.
And the DC comics.
Yeah, Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great competition in my opinion.
I do prefer DC.
I do prefer Marvel, but you know what? They both great make movies and I love watching both of them. People, you can love both.
But you can still prefer DC comics.
Of course. You don't have to hate one company just so you would prove that you love the other company.
Exactly.
So we don't have to hate each other, but we can be cool about it. We can disagree.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's not. Usually we go also with honorable mentions, but these last few videos we haven't been doing them for various reasons.
Mostly because there's way too many movies for the list, and like we said with our prior list, they would have been different had they been made 5 minutes later, much less the next day,
yeah,
or the previous day, or the next month.
Yeah.
There's so many of them we love, like all of them or 99% of them.
Yeah, definitely.
And at any given moment, any one of the 99% that we do like would have made it on this list. And there's one movie that actually could make all the lists that we'll be making. There's one movie that fits all the criteria that we haven't mentioned, and that's Kelly's Heroes. If you haven't watched Kelly's Heroes,
oh dude,
Kelly's Heroes, it's a sports movie, it's a comic book movie,
really?
It's a war movie.
It's a comic book movie?
No, it's not. But it's so good, it really is anything you want it to be. It's that good. It's not just that good, it's better than that good. And it can be on any list that you want because it's really that good of a movie. So if you haven't watched Kelly's Heroes, go watch Kelly's Heroes.
Is this your one plug for Kelly's Heroes? Because we haven't done a movie review for that movie?
No, but it's one of those things like we should definitely do it.
You know what? We're gonna do a review about it after we finish.
We're not. We should really rewatch it before we do it, just because.
Dude, I rewatched it like last year, man.
I don't care. It's that good of a movie. It can be on any list. That's how good it is. Okay,
on a serious note, man.
On a serious note, I actually do have one honorable mention.
Is it Flash Gordon?
No.
Okay.
It's actually Logan. I had to kick him off the top 10.
That's why it's an honorable mention.
Knowing me, you know how hard that was.
I do.
Because I I have been waiting a long time to see Hugh Jackman do Wolverine like he did in Logan. And to actually see it, to experience it, it was more than I actually thought it was going to be. And I loved it so much, so actually keeping it off this list was really, really hard. That's why it's an honorable mentions. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any honorable mentions at all.
Dude.
You want to do your 10 to 5 first, or should I?
You know what? You go ahead first. I like when you go first. I'm sure our viewers do too.
Now, here's the thing. This is one of those movies that started the whole thing.
Okay, it's either Superman or Batman 1966. If it's not the Flash Gordon serials from the 30s.
It's Superman. Putting it this long list was one of the hardest things I had to do other than kicking Logan off this list.
Dude, I'm so glad you put it on your list because I wanted to put it on my list, but I ended up going with another Superman movie. But you know what?
But this movie started it all. Christopher Reeves as Superman was everything and more that you wanted your superhero to be. And
Richard Donner.
No, the guy who played Lex.
Oh, Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman was perfect Lex. Everything came together in this movie.
It's the first time we've seen a man fly, actually, like for real. Like, not with, I mean, yeah, he had ropes and whatnot, but it was shot in a way that it really looked like he was flying. And to me, John Williams' score that starts off this movie, and Marlon Brando playing Jor-El in the beginning, and seeing Krypton at all for the year that this movie came out. I think it was late 78 or 79.
78.
I think my movie release dates, and
Scott
Just-
Mans would be proud.
dude. Listen, this movie is one of the best movies ever made. Not just when it comes to comic book movies, but the
But in
story
general,
in
yeah.
general, dude. Just from the score piece by John Williams, that is, if I don't know if we released, yeah, we did release the. Yeah,
At this point, we did the scores.
we'll put the list, but if you haven't seen that list, you
Our
should
top
go
10
and
scores. Superman is on there just because it is as epic as the movie itself. And John
And
Williams.
does a great job, and Richard Donner does a great job with adaptation from comics into the live action, and just making a man fly. The way he did it was never done that way before,
But
and
doing it
just
as emotional, the whole movie. I mean, when Superman flies out and makes the world
you
spin
get to
back,
see him grow up as a child, as a kid, as a teenager. You kind of get a sense of the struggle that he went through by denying himself the power to express his powers to their full potential, and then seeing him do what he was not born to do, but he was gifted to do, because his life is a gift. He's
seeing him step into the role of Superman,
Yeah.
not just Clark Kent, taking those glasses off and actually donning the mantle.
hey, there
Oh,
you go,
Superman.
another pun.
It's and to see the struggle that he has to go through.
I could go,
it's
dude,
perfect.
I could
it's brilliant.
talk about.
It's everything you want in this.
If you've never seen it,
I have no idea what's wrong with you.
seriously, people, and
Just go watch it because
yeah,
it
and
really is that good.
people make fun of the ending of the movie, how he like spins the world around to turn
That's
back.
one of my favorite parts. When he actually is holding Lois Lane's body in his hand,
You-
the rage that he goes through,
Yeah.
the struggle that he goes through, trying to grip that he just lost something that's very, very dear to him. And then to see him explode into outer space and actually fly so fast that he's
Spins the world back in time, and yeah,
and actually
gets,
saves her. He might be corny or
it gets
listen.
overused later on, but
yeah,
listen,
but it's so monumental in that moment in this
Yeah.
movie.
because
it fits
that
the
were-
setting
yeah,
perfectly.
because you think the movie's over, everything is lost, all the hope is gone, but then he does what he
then
does.
he's and just that
yeah.
pure rage that you see.
Yeah, what's your number 9?
BVS had to be on this list.
Okay.
For me, I love it.
If we're
was-
talking about the extended ultimate cut, right?
Any BVS you want, man.
Okay.
Both of them.
Listen,
All
I
three of them. There's three of them.
I appreciated the theatrical release, but I do think the extended ultimate cut that was released on Blu-ray DVD later on was a much better version of the movie than the one we got to see in the theater.
Since my laptop died, I actually didn't get to see that one.
Oh, well.
So I only
You
saw
will
the
eventually.
theatrical version. Oh yeah, I plan to.
Anyways,
I got a ton of other stuff to watch, but basically, Martha. No, here's the thing. The whole movie.
we can
I
talk
was-
about Martha moment, because to
I was
me,
looking forward to this movie when they announced that they're actually gonna to put Superman and Batman in the same movie,
yeah,
and you knew there was a fight gonna happen. But here's the thing. Just because at one point I actually read the comic book, the Spider-Man and Superman one, the Superman vs Spider-Man or Spider-Man v Superman, and that's where I learned that in comics, if you put two quote-unquote good guys against each other, it's usually fight happens for about 2 minutes, then they figure out they're on the same side and they fight together. So I was expecting the exact same thing. So I knew they were gonna fight, and I knew they were gonna work together.
you bring up a good point, because to me that's become so cliche. Superheroes or superpowered people, when they first meet, they have to fight. To me, that's become such a cliche. It makes watching an animated series, it makes reading comic books almost unwatchable and unreadable, because every time that part comes along, I want to kick somebody's. Whoever wrote
Behind.
that, whoever wrote it,
Even
I
though
want to
you're
kick. I want to
perfectly-
slap that person.
Even though you're aware that this is gonna pass and they're gonna team up, so.
But
and
this was the
especially when
first
it
time you've
comes
seen
from-
it in the live action, so to me it was okay. We
Well,
have
what
to
I
go
really-
through this.
What I
have to
really
go through
appreciated though was that actually they didn't just put them together. They didn't just throw it in, no matter what people said. I know
this. No,
the
yeah.
critics' remark were bad. This movie was good, and it's not gonna be appreciated till like at least
for another 10 or 15 years
Yeah,
at least.
easy.
If
Probably
not
even
more.
20.
Yeah, let's give it 20
Unfortunately,
years.
this is one of those movies that we actually got experience when it came out, but like probably 2 generations from now, people are gonna
And that
start
was also,
appreciating
yeah,
the movie.
and that was also lucky because I only saw the first trailer. I told myself I'm only gonna
I
watch
didn't
that
watch
one.
it at all.
Yeah, and now because most of the movie
'Cause
watching experience for this movie was ruined by the trailers that gave a little bit too much away.
That is why I
much.
avoid watching trailers altogether, just because I want to be
And-
completely immersed in the movie. But going back to the story, they
And it-
set up the story nicely.
Yeah, and
They
it's not
didn't
about
just-
Batman and Superman. We also get Wonder Woman in this movie, who is
Her
there
first
for only,
appearance in the DC
Live action, yeah. but and Gal Gadot did a really great job. And listen, no matter what people say, I think she's a great Wonder Woman. I don't know if Wonder Woman movie is on your list, but a few years
It's
later
not,
we got to see it. We got to see
But
this.
doesn't mean I don't like it.
We got to see this past summer, this June, and to me that movie is so good. Gal Gadot did
Bohemians
really-
was a few months ago.
Yeah, whatever, man. I have no idea when we're releasing this. So, listen, BVS. There was also that Martha moment that most people seem to hate and dislike, but to me that's such a monumental moment. Listen, when we were kids and two friends found out that their mothers said the same name, that was something cool, man. That was like, your mom
Like,
has...
not only are we friends,
but our mom...
but your mom and my mom, they have the same name.
That's a cool thing, man. That's a cool thing.
It might be, everybody going over the whole Martha, but here's the thing, it fits into the movie.
And the character
take
of
the moment
Batman's
out-
character too, because
That's why the story leading up to that moment was so important. That they set it up right. When they actually put the Martha moment, when they throw it at you, they actually figure out, okay, something just happened.
Yeah.
Something flipped. To the point where after that Batman goes to rescue
because Batman's
Superman's
been doing
mom.
everything Batman's been doing all these years is because his mom died in front of his very eyes. And not
he's
just
dead,
his mom,
but-
but his dad, but at that moment it was just Martha. So it's like, yeah.
And when he says save Martha, because at this point they kidnapped Superman's mom. When he says save Martha, and then you just see the switch.
Yeah, the button flips.
Only thing
Switch flips.
I don't
in
figure
Batman's
out at
brain.
this moment, I don't think Amy Adams needed to be there. That's just me.
We love Amy Adams, by the way.
We do. But it's number 9 on the list
Yeah,
for a reason.
man. Okay, I give it, dude. Yeah,
And
go ahead, man.
rewatchability factor on this one is off the charts. At least to me.
Okay, at least to you. And that's what's important here. So, what's your number 8?
Number 8 is a space movie that came out of nowhere. Pretty much came out of nowhere. At this point, everybody was immersed into the Avengers and what Iron Man and Cap and rest of them were up to, but the Guardians of the Galaxy came out of nowhere and took us by surprise. And
Unfortunately, I had to kick that line off the list, man. I think it
I
is.
had to keep it.
If we
I
did
almost,
this list later on or before, like you said in the beginning, this would probably be on my list.
I
Eventually.
almost kicked him off like 5 times, but every time I found a reason to keep him because
Yeah,
I
dude.
just could not kick him off. Because I think while the Iron Man and Thor and
Is
Cap
it because
movies,
you had a feeling deep inside of you?
exactly. That's my escape, man. So
Dude, man. Hey, Guardians
listen,
of the
here's
Galaxy
thing.
is such a
At
fun,
that
great
point,
movie.
everybody was you were trying to figure out what Iron Man's doing, what Cap's doing, what Thor's doing, and how it all ties into the Avengers. And basically, you had the standalones, then you had the Avengers standalone and the Avengers. Then Guardians came out of nowhere. Yes, they
And
did.
most people were skeptical about this movie because this was an unknown property. But to me, I had hope because it was a Marvel property. I knew.
Yeah.
And listen, I had no idea who these guys were, so I was looking forward to the movie for that because I wanted to meet these characters, and we got to see it, man. And
From opening sequence on, everything about this movie is pure perfection.
definitely,
There are
James
couple
Gunn
of-
doing such a great
There are
job
a couple of
directing
Marvel
it.
movies ahead of Guardians on this list.
Yeah.
But for me, I probably almost prefer Guardians to all of them.
Okay.
That's
do.
how highly I think of them. They're that good.
To
At least
me, Guardians is better than Volume 2. Volume 1 is better than Volume 2, but you know what? Both great movies, especially the first one, and it should be on
let's
anyone's
just
list.
agree that we can't wait to see the Volume 3.
Definitely. What's your number 7?
The best Captain America movie to date. Winter Soldier.
Okay. You want to talk about? Because to me, listen.
Do you have Cap in your list?
Kind of sort. I wanted to put Civil War, but I've decided to go with another movie. Anyways.
Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, a Cap, everybody knows, but you know, by the time.
But listen, we didn't grow up with Marvel comics because we didn't really have them. We didn't really have them, especially the big, the Captain America. We had Spider-Man and we had Conan. Okay, that was it. That was it. So we didn't even have X-Men. We had the cartoon series. We had Spider-Man animated series. We had. I'm sure I'm gonna remember something else later on. But listen, we didn't have this
grow up with this stuff just because it was
I
around
knew about Captain America only as a thought, as a concept. I had a vague idea of who he was supposed to be, but I didn't really know who. So when
and then the first Avenger came out,
and that was my most expected movie of that year, man. And when it came out, I was first one there to see it. I watched it. I enjoyed it. I loved it.
It really was.
And then we got the Winter Soldier, who pretty much continued on, not just on Captain America.
At this point, you had the Avengers, you had the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there was
we had a Thor movie, if not two.
So there was some stuff that happens.
We had
in
two
between.
Iron Man.
Yeah, there was stuff that happens in between those two movies. But when Winter Soldier came out, to me today, it's best Captain America.
And having Robert Redford in there as well was kind of. It showed in the trailers. It showed that this was gonna be a different kind of Marvel movie, not just comic book action movie that we were accustomed to seeing up to that point.
There's gonna be some spy stuff. There's gonna be some
intrigue. There's gonna be some, nefarious actions going on. So, Winter Soldier definitely, man. And we get introduced to another great character, not just to Winter Soldier. We get introduced to the Falcon. Forgot his name, Sam, whatever.
On your left.
On your left, man. On your left. And listen, Winter Soldier is a great movie, and definitely deserves to be on the list. But to me, when it comes to MCU and Marvel movies, like depending on what movie it is, especially Winter Soldier, it's kind of hard just watching it by, like, it's watchable by itself, but it's so much more fulfilling when you're watching the other movies as well.
It is, but to me, it's still sticks out as the best.
Oh, definitely.
That Marvel did, and it rivals, to me, some of the Iron Man stuff is always gonna be better than Captain America stuff. But Captain America Winter Soldier, basically, it might be up there as the top Marvel movie.
Definitely.
I think even we made the list of top 10 Marvel movies, or we didn't. I can't remember.
I don't think we did top 10 Marvel list.
But
if we did it, we talked about it. We actually talked about it.
Winter Soldier would be top 1 or 2.
And we decided for top 10 comic book movies instead. Although I think maybe we should have gone with top 10 DC, Marvel, whatever, man. Anyways.
There's a reason why it's number 7 on my list.
Yeah, because what's your number 6?
Spider-Man 2.
Okay. I've got another Spider-Man movie on my list, but a little bit higher than that, talk about number 2, man.
In the first one, you get introduced
or we can
Peter
talk
Parker.
about when we come. We'll talk about Spider-Man later on, man. We'll talk about Spider-Man later on. It deserves to be talked about to much more detail than we already have. Coming in at my number 10. Listen, I tried putting a bunch of movies here. I was gonna do an honorable mentions list, but you know what? I'm gonna skip all that. I could have gone with Flash Gordon and 300 and The Watchmen and Tron and Dread and Men in Black, but you know what, I'm just gonna mention them like this just so I mention them. And coming in my number 10 is a Marvel movie, and it was one of my favorite movies of 2015, and it's Ant-Man. Has one of the best scores ever. Speaking of scores again, comic book movies always have great scores. Ant-Man was, speaking of Winter Soldier.
Not to mention, you never saw that thing coming, dude.
Dude, never. But speaking of Winter Soldier, being a different movie than from what we were used to seeing, Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy even, because they were such an unknown property, they decided to do a movie about it. Ant-Man is a much more known property than Guardians of the Galaxy are.
But I think
it's
to one extent they actually follow the blueprint that they did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Take the movie, and they did the same thing later on with Doctor Strange, where it's part of the same timeline, but the events happening here
don't necessarily influence the
events happening here.
the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And Ant-Man was all that and much more. And seeing Michael Douglas as Hank Pym was, to me, like, he's, even though he's not as much in the movie, he stole the show. And Lily, what's her name? Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah.
I mean, she was great. And Paul Rudd, great Scott.
But
Whatever.
even when we're talking about Ant-Man, you gotta talk about Michael Pena.
Listen, man. His dad got deported. His mom died. His dad
Well, he got a
deported,
van.
but he has
That's
the van.
all- yeah.
His girlfriend left him, but he has the van, and he's also an ex-con, just like the Scott. What's his
Rudd.
name? No, that's Paul Rudd. Scott. I forgot his name, man. But whatever, man.
Lang.
Scott Lang, yeah. Scott Lang. Listen, they were buddies before prison, and now they're both living in this. Like, Michael Pena's character is Lewis. He's letting
And let's just say,
Scott
at one
live with
point we
him.
want Lewis to recap all the Marvel movies
Yeah,
because that's the only thing that can make him better.
yeah, and yeah, had a great Stan Lee cameo, not unlike we were hoping for, but it was still good. And Ant-Man took to me, it captured my heart, man. Like, that
know.
movie is so fun, and the
Captured
technology.
more than your heart.
Yeah, and this movie is so fun, man, and the technology too that shrinks him, and just
While I do hate to do this, what's number 9 on the list? I don't have all day.
okay, man. Dude, I'm gonna finish it off, man. Okay, we,
That's all I'm
we both
saying.
don't have all day because we're watching movies tonight. But listen,
You and Ant-Man, you can go all day, so
dude,
you
man,
know.
I got a
I got
T-shirt to
stuff to
prove
do,
it, and not
places
this
to
one.
do.
So whatever, man. Coming in at number 9, like if you haven't seen Ant-Man, just go and watch it. Coming in number 9.
Yeah, at this point you already got your view, so yeah, leave a like before you leave, you know.
Yeah.
You want to comment, you know, throw a comment
Okay,
as
this
well.
movie I kind of skipped because I thought it was like, it looked stupid. But then a few years later, when I saw Kick-Ass, dude, this movie is so,
I have a confession
so
to make,
good.
I still didn't see it.
Dude, why? Why me? Why me? Oh man, Kick-Ass is so much fun, man. And why you haven't seen it, man? I love this movie. It has a great score. It has great characters. Dude, there's a scene. There's moments in this movie where they're buying comic books in the comic book store, but the comic book shop is also a cafe. So it's like you
There's the
drinking
scene
your
with two Quicksilvers when...
yeah, this is the scene with two Quicksilvers. And it's like they're drinking coffee and talking about comic books and reading comic books. It's so much fun, man. It's something I always wanted to have here, but we never got to see it here in real life in Croatia, here in Split. Hopefully something gets done about that eventually. Coming in number 8, I think this might be higher on your list. It's X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, man. Dude, coming in number 7, this may even be higher on your list. It's Man of Steel.
This was very hard for me, but
You
it's
did-
not on my list.
It's not on your list.
I put Superman on there,
Listen,
and BVS, there was two
Zack
Superman
Snyder did
movies.
something with Superman that we've never seen.
Here's the thing, after Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy came out, somebody got a bright idea to make Superman a little bit darker because everybody loved Batman so much.
And you know what?
They figure out if they repeat the process with Superman, it might bring in better result, bigger box office score, if you would.
We talked about this.
We talked about this movie on multiple videos.
Well, we're putting the link right now. I'm putting the link to Man of Steel review
Yeah,
that we did
somewhere.
a few months ago, and I'm not gonna talk about this movie any more than we should because this list
We
is
love
all-
it so
Yeah,
much.
this movie is an
If you don't,
underappreciated
we don't care.
masterpiece, and if you don't love this movie, there's definitely something wrong.
This
with
is
you.
another movie that's not gonna be properly appreciated until like 2-3 generations from now.
No, yeah, definitely. This movie is
Unfortunately,
amazing.
because it's a
to say the
masterpiece
least.
in its own.
Definitely, and it stands on its own. It can be watched just by itself.
We'll do the
And
review
anyways,
thing.
coming
Don't
in
worry.
number 6, to me, it's Batman Returns.
Alright. Is that the nipple one?
No,
Okay.
no. Batman Returns is the sequel to Tim Burton's Batman 1989. And to me, as much as Batman 1899 was great, it was like the first Batman movie that we got since Superman and since Batman 1966. But to me, sequel is a much better movie because not only has more villains, but it has better villains. Like, I like Joker as a villain, but to me Jack Nicholson's Joker is average. There's nothing spectacular about his Joker.
Let's just say...
But that's a discussion for some other time completely.
When Carrey's your Riddler and Nichols is your Joker, you should have flipped him.
Dude.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude, you know what?
You should have flipped him.
Dude, whatever, man. Whatever. But Batman Returns, we get Danny DeVito as the Penguin, who is as notorious as Joker is, but much more. I mean, he's much more evil than sinister than Joker, than Jack Nicholson as Joker was, in my opinion. Even though, like,
he does a great job eating the fish, even looking the part.
Dude,
like the whole looking the part thing just struck you.
And Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, dude, like, she still stands on top of comic book villains anywhere, man. Like, her Catwoman is so freaking amazing. People seem to forget her for some reason. Danny DeVito still gets laughed at, but you know what? Batman Returns,
he was a great Penguin,
dude.
Like, I don't remember much about that stuff, that movie, the particulars, but I remember the Danny DeVito.
I rewatched all of these movies a few years ago, and this movie still holds up. The effects are still great. They're all practical, but you know what? It's a kind of a weird universe, weird Gotham City to look at, especially once you've seen the Dark Knight universe. But to me, Batman Returns is a movie that you can watch in your own, like, by itself. Like,
yeah.
And the Batmobile, seriously, like, dude. And Danny Elfman's score still goes on, and was the score that inspired the score for the animated series. One of the best scores ever. And seriously, dude. What else? I don't have to talk about this movie anymore, because if I do, we're gonna drag it on.
Be here a while.
What's your number 5?
Age of Ultron.
Okay.
To me, I know probably Avengers is somewhere on your list.
Yeah, it is on my list, much higher, but...
Okay, while Avengers had better villain in Loki, let's not even kid ourselves. Yeah, Loki. To me, Age of Ultron was the better movie. It's debatable.
Yeah, very debatable, man.
Very extremely debatable. To me,
very debatable.
It just comes out on top. I like the story better, and I do like Ultron as a villain.
Oh, definitely.
A lot. And
the
James
whole thing
Spader
is so
did the
cool.
whole thing.
Oh, dude.
The whole bringing in new characters. It's just fun.
Yeah,
and it's just I liked it a lot more.
I think this movie was a little bit too much on the plate of Joss Whedon for this movie. I think
maybe, but
if he
here's
had
the
more
thing
time,
that, to me, that if
and more energy, because that dude was so worked over this movie. I think
the thing that elevates it,
it shows
over the first one. First one is the first team up you had,
live action team.
And
yeah,
Loki just adds
much more to it. Yeah, definitely.
But that's it.
Not really.
You had, I mean, okay, not really, but you had the first, you had the team up and Loki as a
we'll talk about
it.
What's your number 4, man?
Watchmen.
Watchmen. Okay, talk about it.
Had to be on this list. I remember watching. I avoided it for a long time.
I think
it was long. I read some reviews, and everybody was like, "Oh my god,
there's too many different cuts of this movie."
It's a bad movie. Blah blah blah. It doesn't follow the comic book. Blah blah blah. At that time, I was still like, when I watched it the first time, I would still pay attention to what, I would read the occasional review, which I don't do today. I don't do reviews. Like, I don't read them, I don't watch them, I don't care about them. Unless he makes me.
Yeah.
For something, particular. But generally, I don't do it, because they even set up stuff about the movie.
Because I mentioned Watchmen before as an honorable mention, and I mentioned 300. This movie came after 300. And in both of these movies are very dark. This is both Zack Snyder's work, who did Man of Steel. And so, his work on both of these movies shows in Man of Steel. And these movies came, Watchmen came just after Batman Begins, but at the same year that The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah, 2008.
And from what I know, this movie follows like comic book more than most other comic book movies
More than any.
And it still
other
bothers
comic book
people. But to me, Watchmen, even though it didn't make it to my list, I think it's a movie everybody should see. Anybody who's interested in comic book movies, anybody who's interested in reading comic
and
books,
especially
but doesn't
seeing
want
what's
to.
out there, like, other than DC and Marvel, because there are other comic book companies whose work isn't really always put into spotlight, especially in the movie industry.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But it's
There are
slowly,
some talk. It's coming.
it's already
Stuff
being
is
done.
in development. Stuff is happening. Watchmen is one of those.
Watchmen is one of those, definitely. Yeah.
My number 3 is your number 1. So
Okay,
we're gonna
well,
skip my number 3.
Definitely, man.
So,
So,
you know.
coming in my mind now, number 5. You mentioned Superman is number 10. To me, number 5 is Superman 2. Richard Donner's Superman
All right.
continuation.
Yeah.
And listen. Michael Shannon was great Zod, but the guy playing Zod in this movie, whose name skips my mind, is also a great Zod, a great villain. And yeah, we talked about Richard Donner using the same ending as he did in the first movie. It kind of gets overused and laughed at. You know what, to me, I had no issues with it, and Superman 2 is a movie that continues. Listen, there's a lot of drama when it comes to Superman behind the scenes, because Richard Donner was shooting both Superman back to back pretty much. And Superman 2 was supposed to be Superman 1, but the studio decided differently. They brought in a different director who shot Superman 2, not completely, but 50% of it he shot again, even though they were pretty much the same scenes that Donner already shot. And
Imagine if that happens today, the kind of mess
Yeah.
that would...
Yeah, and anyways,
Create.
there is a Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 out today that you can go and buy and watch. And that's the cut I'm talking about, because it is a better version. Because for some reason, Warner Brothers hasn't changed the way they do things since then. Because we still get Batman v Superman and Suicide Squads, reshoots and dramas and cuts that are not necessary. And I think
just to make it clear, because of the importance of social media today, everything, and I really do mean everything,
gets blown
that
out
happens,
of proportion.
gets blown out of proportions.
Yeah, especially reshoots. And
Because everybody freaks out, because the second there's a reshoot, oh my god, what did they do wrong? They did a ton of stuff wrong, and then all of a sudden everybody knows what's going on in the movie,
Yeah.
even though they have no idea what's going on.
But unlike 30 years ago, today reshoots are scheduled into the movie production schedule. You know, reshoots are coming because they're scheduled, they have to be done, because there's always some small mistake that needs to get, you know, when I hear reshoots are happening, I don't...
It's a normal thing.
It's a pretty...
Like, I know you like to blow it off. You
Because
don't need
people
to.
need to
it's
talk
a
about
normal
something.
process for a movie making. There's always a
Especially
reshoot.
today. Especially
Especially
today.
today.
When I heard that, I don't know, was it Wonder Woman? No, not Wonder Woman, but it was something recent got...
Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League was having reshoots. That's normal. I'm cool with it because I knew it was gonna happen.
And you want reshoots. You want them to reshoot some stuff. You don't know what the original cut looked like. You don't know what
Exactly.
they didn't get to tape the first time around because of the scheduling conflict.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't get all the actors for a certain scene at the same time. So let's schedule a reshoot. When you're free, we'll bring you over, we'll do it.
Yeah.
It's normal process in the movie making today.
Today, I don't know how it was 30 years ago. I don't know how it was 15 years ago, but for
Today
the last...
it's normal.
Yeah, for
And
the
let's
last...
move off this subject because
Yeah, I'm gonna...
you'll blow a gasket or
dude,
something.
listen, I'm gonna take this clip and make it its own separate video just for the reshoots, because we're gonna talk about this subject at one point or another. But, yeah. So, yeah, it started back then, it's still happening. So, listen, Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, go watch it, one of the best movies ever made, and still a great John Williams score.
Yeah.
Coming in my number 4, I'm sure this is higher on your list, maybe it's the same, but it's The Dark Knight.
Alright, yeah, let's move on. Talk about it later.
Okay.
You know where it's at. I don't
Number
even need to
3,
tell you.
and number 3, it's The Avengers for me.
Okay.
So we can continue our debate about The Avengers and Age of Ultron, because listen, Joss Whedon was tasked with something that never happened up to that point. At early 2000s, George Miller was supposed to do a Justice League movie for Warner Brothers and DC Comics, but that fell through, and Joss Whedon was the next man to kind of do it. Although you could argue that Zack Snyder did it first with his Watchmen because he brought whatever, man, but whatever. We got the Avengers first time, a bunch of superheroes teamed up.
And boy was he hyped. And boy was he for a reason.
And dude,
The movie delivered on everything it was everything you wanted to be, plus more.
that rotating scene with five or six of them standing in the circle and camera just moving around, and with that score, Alan Silvestri's score playing in the background, man, and with Hulk in, I mean, when did you ever think you were gonna see Hulk with the rest of the Avengers in full like Hulk mode, man?
That's my secret. I'm always angry.
And dude, man, so it's like
For some reason the best scenes in this movie either belong to Hulk or Loki.
yeah,
Or both of them at the same time. Unigod and all that stuff.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, listen, Joss Whedon was so worked on this movie that when he was supposed to do Avengers 2, he was still suffering the consequences, and some of it shows. And listen,
but I do love the story of the second one better than the first one.
Age of Ultron, dude, I don't know,
prefer.
man.
Listen. I like the story. When I watch the movie, I want to see a good story. I want to see a well-developed story.
The character,
and I want to see the story that constantly.
But you wouldn't have Avengers: Age of Ultron without the first one, because in the first one they come together for the first time, and this is something that the rest of the MCU movies were showing in the first Avenger and Thor and first Iron Man.
You can follow that.
And the
logic
Incredible Hulk.
In every sequel ever, you can always say, well, the first one was better because they did it for the first time. And while it does hold true, at some point, some sequels are better. To me, Age of Ultron is better. Like I said, I like the story.
Highly debatable.
I like Loki's angle in the first one, but I think
Loki
Ultron,
has a great angle. Yeah.
I love Loki. Loki is probably my favorite part about...
You could also argue that Loki is just not the villain of the movie, but he's just the antagonist, while Ultron is a much better villain. Because he is a true villain of the movie.
He is true villain, yes, but Loki,
because you could argue that Thanos is the real villain of the first movie. Even though
he's not really there. Yeah, but... Like I said, I like to see
Chitauri are his forces, so it's like he did something.
I like to see a good story, and I just think that the story in Age of Ultron was better than the one in the first one.
Dude, I can't argue that, because as much as I don't disagree with it, I agree with it at the same time. And so yeah, Avengers and my number 3. And I'm gonna go with my number 2 simply because you already kind of mentioned it, and I said we were gonna talk about this later. And it's Spider-Man. Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. You have Spider-Man 2 and number 5 or 6?
6.
6. Listen, when Spider-Man 2 was announced, I don't think I've seen it in cinema, but the first time I watched it...
Third one I saw in the cinema. The first one and the second one.
I don't remember, man. But it was so... Anyways, listen, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is still my favorite, and Spider-Man was always... Listen, it was always one of my
Garfield,
favorite.
but Tobey's the man, and Tom Holland...
I think Tom Holland's...
Too early to tell, but so far Tobey's beating him.
In my opinion, yeah. And it's not fault of his own, it's just the way the character has been written for the Spider-Man Homecoming.
I think Tom Holland is a great Peter Parker, great Spider-Man, but just the story that he's put into...
And not just that, his Spider-Man lacks something. It's like Spider-Sense, okay? And Tobey Maguire's Spider-Sense comes in pretty early in the movie. As soon as stuff starts happening to him, Spider-Sense is right there, right next to it, to help him get out of trouble.
And he doesn't need a fancy suit.
Not really. And I like the fact...
He makes his own.
The thing I like about his webbing is it's natural, it's organic. He doesn't need an external web shooters.
He doesn't have to mix his own web fluids and
which is all, you know, which in comic books...
Which comes back later on with the Amazing Spider-Man and again with Homecoming.
Yeah, and it was in the comics that way. Like, he had to mix his own fluid because in the early days...
It was a lot more... He just came out naturally.
And when he was practicing, it's like... It's a fun movie. Just him learning to
And
control his powers.
While okay,
Learning to use his
first
powers.
one is his number 2, but while the first one set up the characters, set up everything, second one is far superior movie because the whole shebang just they make it even
Listen,
better.
you know what?
Doc Ock as a villain.
You know what? I can't argue these movies as one is better than the other simply because they're a continuation of one another.
And here's again the thing, like
listen,
the second
Uncle
one
Ben
is never getting made if the first one doesn't
isn't
get
getting made. And you can kill Uncle Ben only so many times. And you can only hear him say, with great power comes great responsibility so many times before it gets old. But to me it'll never get old because it's true.
It's who Spider-Man is. It's what drives him.
Yeah.
Those words, with great power comes great responsibility. It drives him, it makes him into
who he is.
Not just the hero he is, but even makes Peter Parker who he is.
Yeah.
And you can't escape from it. It has to be a vital part of any Spider-Man movie. And Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is the best one yet.
Dude.
Wholehearted. I love Andrew Garfield. I thought that they added something there that Tobey Maguire's didn't have.
Yeah.
But Tobey Maguire is just better.
Yeah.
And like I say, Homecoming,
jury is still out on Spider-Man Homecoming.
It's too early to tell. He's getting a few more movies.
And we'll see how they tie into the MCU because that's also... Dude, listen. I could go on and on about Homecoming, but we already talked about it in a separate video. But Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, dude, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Exactly.
And definitely...
One of the best trilogies ever.
And the great score by Danny Elfman.
Exactly.
Coming in your number 1.
My number 2.
2, yeah.
Days of Future Past.
Okay. We skipped talking about that one, but for good reason.
He put it at
number 9. It should be way higher, man. It should be, but it's hard balancing this list out.
Listen, it's one of those, had we made it 5 minutes later, it would have been different. Days of Future Past, however, would still probably be number 2 on my list, or at least like top 5, because to me, it is the perfect X-Men movie.
It is.
It takes the future, it takes the past,
and
puts them together.
Not only that, it does something that no other movie ever did before. Every movie that came out prior to that, it gets nullified by the stuff that happens in this movie. So everything you saw in X-Men 1, 2, and 3
didn't happen because the
stuff that happens in this movie happened.
The past was changed and stuff developed differently. And
it made way for the new X-Men movies.
The whole story is there. The action sequences, the Charles talking to Charles.
Oh, dude, I still get chills.
Goosebumps, man. Yeah, goosebumps for a reason.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now, man.
Like if we did
you can't
like
see him,
top
but they're
10
there,
speeches or something, that's there.
Yeah.
Do we need you to hope again? Chills, man.
Yeah. And having young and old Magneto in the same movie.
Yeah, and the whole the sequence of the whole speech when
Logan being the main protagonist, man.
Yeah, when James McAvoy was searching Logan's mind, and when he sees all the pain, all the hurt the guy goes through, it's like no, look for your future. Dude, we gotta speed this up.
Our battery's getting low, man. Our battery's getting low. We could go on. What's your first movie?
My first one is Dark Knight.
We already talked about
we did the whole review on it. If you did not watch it, I have no idea what's wrong with you. Something is wrong with you.
We'll put the
link
to our review of the whole trilogy.
His number 1, my number 3 is V for
Vendetta. This is one of those movies that is based on the comic book, but a lot different than your usual superhero / comic book movies are. V for Vendetta.
Remember the 5th of November.
Listen, takes fascist under post-apocalyptic world in a completely different way than what we're used to seeing, and it gives us this protagonist, this action hero, unlike we've ever seen. Natalie Portman doing a great job, and seeing her ball, shaving her head, is just something we never expected to see, and we got to see, and she looks beautiful even with short hair or no hair at all. And V for Vendetta, such a great ending, such a great movie. I mean, Hugo Weaving is doing a great job behind the mask. Listen, Judge Dredd did it first with actually just Dredd, not Judge Dredd. Yep. Dredd. Carl Urban wearing the mask throughout the whole movie was one thing, and that came after, years after V for Vendetta.
To act the way he did portray the character in such a way while you actually never even know who he is.
Yeah.
Because he's always under the mask.
Yeah. And that mask in
And right now my mind's going blank, but the amount of quotable lines in this one is...
dude. And the mask also inspired the anonymous hackers group, and inspired like people today wear that mask to stay anonymous because it symbolizes.
And in protest of whatever they're protesting at the moment.
If you've never seen Me for Vendetta, go do yourself a favor.
It's one of those goes under the radar. Probably is underrated.
I don't think it's underrated, but it's definitely underseen.
Definitely
more people need to see it.
But you gotta see it because the messages in the movie, as far as standing up for what is right, even if nobody else is, about staying true to who you are.
And not just that, but just keeping the government in check as well as its people.
Yeah, that's part of the storyline as well. Definitely a movie worth watching. There's a reason why it's my number 3, his number 1. It really is that good.
Yeah.
So as our battery dies, we say hello and goodbye, and like, subscribe and stuff.
And let us know what you thought about our list, let us know your list, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, Bash Bros up.